Hello, and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Rachanee. We're writers helping writers with whatever writing ailments you might have.
Whether it's related to your craft or your career, we can help.
Are you ready for your session?
The
The doctors
doctors
are
are
in.
in.
Hello, Tom. How have you been?
I've been great. It's been a long time since we've done this.
It's been a long summer.
It has.
Catch me up. What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? In the writing world, I wrote a short. It was actually early in the summer, and it's a kind of another like synesthesia. It's kind of like a Black Mirror-esque kind of sci-fi / maybe a tiny bit horror, but short, like a 15-minute short. So I was working on that. A lot of working on the game, on Wordcursion. We did a big test of the game online and advertising, and we had up to like about 3,000 people playing the game at one point.
Ooh.
And that was a good test. But we need to do some more development on the game to get more people interested in it. So we're going to be working on that going through the fall. And I'm trying to find investors if anyone's interested in investing in a mobile game. I'm looking for. I've actually had conversations with a couple investors. No one's offered to give me wheelbarrows full of money yet, but we're working on it. Also, I went to the movies a lot this summer. The movie theaters opened up. The movies started playing again. I saw a dozen or more movies in the theater. More recently, in the wake of Delta, I started going to like Saturday or Sunday matinees when there was like hardly anyone in the theater because I wasn't feeling so comfortable going when they started filling up the theaters and they weren't spacing people out. I started going when no one else was going.
You are a brave soul to even go.
Yeah, I literally would go. I would be like, I'd sit in that front section where no one sits usually. So I'd have like no one within 20 feet of me usually. So like I felt okay then. But I had gone to a movie with a friend in the evening after they lifted the minimum, the maximum occupancy limits on the movie theaters. And I was freaked out because there's this guy sitting right next to me. In fact, the guy was sitting in my seat when I got there. And I had asked him to move. So like, wow, that was like freaking me out. I'm a little germophobic to begin with. And then this whole pandemic made it even worse.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm alive still, so no negative repercussions. But yeah, it's I think a lot of people are going through this. They were excited to go back to the movies at one point, but now everyone's hesitant again. And we just saw, I think, our first push on a big blockbuster movie just got pushed back to next year from this fall. So they're starting to slip again depending on the movies, but they're still coming.
Did you see? Which movies did you see?
Oh gosh, I saw.
You don't have to remember all of them. Just the highlights.
Well, from most recent to going back in time, I saw Shang-Chi, Jungle Cruise, The Green Knight, Suicide Squad, Snake Eyes, Fast and Furious 9, Black Widow, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, In the Heights, Quiet Place 2, and Wrath of Man. That's the last dozen movies I saw in the theater.
Oh, so you saw pretty much all the big blockbusters.
I do. I like the blockbusters. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I the only one I didn't like enjoy was the more artsy one, The Green Knight. That was a little weird. It's kind of Aronofsky kind of style of writing and filmmaking.
I've heard, kind of mixed negative on it, unfortunately.
I mean, all the other ones are popcorn fun movies, pretty much. Nothing, you don't have to get into extreme detail on them, but your typical summer movies were great. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's cool. I think of that entire list, the only one I've seen in the theater is Quiet Place 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw the first one together, and we remember that.
Oh, that was so good.
We saw the original Quiet Place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kept it's my favorite thing to do. So when I was able to do it, I went and did it, and going to the movies, and I got get out of my little apartment and get so tired of browsing Netflix after a while.
And you still have that. I think it's the AMC stubs, right, or whatever.
The A-list, yeah.
A-list. That's what they're calling it. Okay.
Yeah, I do, but I did. I actually just canceled it.
Oh no!
It's a longer story, but Yeah, I realize there's only a couple movies coming out for, in the next few months that I really want to see. So, and there's other issues going on in my life that I decided to take a break from that for now
Yeah.
until we're the everyone's more comfortable with going to the movies. I can always go to the movies and just pay retail
Ooh, but that's a lot of
if I really want to see a movie. It's
yeah.
one or two movies a month. It's about the same. So what did you
Huh.
do? I know what you did, but
I know what you did last summer. You know, it's so funny, we were actually looking at when our last episode was in May, and I feel like this summer was definitely like life-changing for me. So the short version is my mom had a health scare and she spent most of July in the hospital, and then in August I went back home to Michigan to be her caretaker. And I thought that foolishly, I was like, "Oh, I'll be home 24/7, I'll have time to, finish some projects." And I had a list of projects. I had some audiobook narration I had to finish. I also have a couple novels that I'm working on as well, and then just, the day-to-day stuff of being an actor and being a voiceover narrator. I actually pushed like mad to finish my own audiobook, and oh my word, Tom, it was insane because I recorded it. I went back to Michigan several times before I stayed in August permanently for like a month. And I recorded my audiobook before my first trip back to Michigan, and then I didn't like some of it. Like I just thought the narration was like I just felt like, "Oh, I can do better." So I basically re-recorded my entire audiobook, like at least two-thirds of it
oh
before
my.
I went back again. So I had these, like, weeks where it would be, like, 1 week just in the studio, hammering it out, and then I'd fly home to Michigan, and then I'd come home and I'd, like, re-record it and edit it and then fly back to Michigan, and it was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so stressful."
Did you
So,
run
it's
into
done.
problems with consistency by doing that? Having breaks like that?
I think the issue was and I think any filmmaker or writer or any sort of creative person probably understands this. When you create something, and I feel like when you create it and then you go back and look at it, you hate every single part of it. Like, I will go back and look at performances I've done that I didn't even direct or anything, and I'm just like, "Oh, if I could just redo that one little line or something," because you're your worst critic. And so I think that was the problem was I'm editing it for quality, to make sure that there's no mouth noises or whatever, but because I'm also the performer, I'm like, "No, I could do that better." And I can't do it on the road because the sound has to be consistent. So because I started it in my booth in Los Angeles, I had to finish it in my booth in Los Angeles. And I actually did an entire so most audiobooks are 10 hours or so of finished audio, which can easily for me be like up to a week's worth of work once you're done editing and stuff. I did an entire audiobook, so that's 10 plus hours in a remote studio in Michigan, and the setup, oh my word. So my mom is in the process of moving, and so there's no furniture anywhere. So the rooms are very echoey. And I had hauled up the fabric covered ottoman, which was really heavy, into my old bedroom. I had like a pillow and blanket fort, and I didn't have anywhere to sit. So I'm sitting or kneeling on the ground and like you should see it. In fact, I did this, voiceover spot for a company in New York, and the director was like she thought it was hilarious because 'cause I'm doing the spot, like, with a blanket tent over me and, like, a pillow and blanket fort around me, and I said, "Hey, if you wanna take a picture and show your colleagues at the office, because I know it's funny looking," you know? But imagine doing 10 plus hours of audio
Yeah.
like that. I was like, "I'm never doing an audiobook on the road again." It was just way too uncomfortable, and I didn't because I'm doing the editing myself, I didn't wanna, like, pay for a studio. I was like, "I can just do it myself." It sounds fine, but it was oh, my knees hate me after doing that. But that was the only project I was able to really do, honestly.
So you have a backlog of work you've got to catch up on now?
Oh my word. My goal was to get Kingdom Legacy Book 2 out by September. So this is September that we're recording this, spoiler alert, and it's self-published fantasy month. And so I was hoping to launch book 2 of my fantasy series this month. It's not going to happen because
Yeah, you haven't even given it to me to read.
I was gonna say, I'm not done with the first draft because my goal was to finish it by midsummer, and then by midsummer, we were in the middle of a family crisis. So And like I said, I will say I have a lot of respect now for full-time caregivers. I did not I don't know anybody personally who's ever had to do it, but it mad respect because it is a lot, and I can't imagine my stint was only temporary, but for someone who has to do it full-time indefinitely, wow, a lot of respect. It's a very hard job.
Hmm. So that's going to keep you busy for a while here.
Oh, yeah.
Any other plans going into the fall?
Well, I had 3 books I wanted to write by the fall, so I'm hoping to have those 3 books. 2 luckily, 2 of them are based off of scripts I've already written, so it's just a matter of transposing it
Ah,
into novel form, so that goes a little quicker, and then I would like to have draft 1 ready by the end of the year for you to read. We'll see what happens.
I
Um,
love that
yeah.
voice. That was hilarious.
I know. We'll see what happens. Oh my word. And then, yeah, it's like best laid plans, right? Life gets in the way. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just easing back into it, seeing what the state of the industry is like because COVID, everyone's scared about COVID.
Still, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like
So,
production has gotten back into full gear, though. It seems like Hollywood really got its handle on, you know, um, compliance and safety and everything so that they can go into production. You still hear about the occasional shutdown of a set somewhere because somebody tested positive, but it's not like it was in the beginning of the summer. And it doesn't seem like there's we hear about filming, we hear about production a lot,
yeah.
so and there's new things coming out, so it seems like the industry has really kind of got a handle on this. Obviously vaccinations are actually California is one of the states with the highest vaccination rate, and now we're actually one of the lowest case rates. So it seems like Hollywood, at least here in Southern California, is back in business. I don't know about writers' rooms as much. I haven't heard anything about that. A lot of that went virtual, so I think a lot of people, this is just kind of like general, work in general. People went virtual and kind of liked it and got used to
Yeah.
it, so they might keep doing it in some respect. I don't know. I don't have a lot of people in working in TV that I can refer to.
I mean, what I will say, and to be fair, like my brain stopped in May and I'm just picking up the pieces now that I'm back in LA. But it seems like so this is normally what they would call episodic season. And this would be when like people are really for actors, you're really auditioning for those littler roles in TV and film. And this would be the time when I think writers' rooms or well, actually even 2 months ago, writers' rooms would have been really cranking up, and I feel like with COVID, there's really no seasons anymore. There's no pilot season, there's no episodic season. It's just whenever you can. Is that what you're feeling or not really?
Yeah, and I think that's an extension of just the streamer world we're in now. Is that streamers to get your monthly subscription fee have to continually produce more stuff,
Mhm.
and Netflix kind of being the leader in that, they have, I don't know, 50 or plus shows in production at any given time, movies and shows, and it's just a constant thing. So, and as all the other networks and stuff went to their own streaming platforms, they've kind of realized this. I mean, you can tell I belong, I subscribe to Netflix and I subscribe to Disney Plus these days, and I've subscribed to HBO Max, and I have a bunch of different ones I go on and off of. You can tell the difference between like a Netflix that is like new shows coming out weekly versus something like an HBO Max or a Disney Plus, which has like one new show at a time or maybe two or three. But because of how Disney's stratified to different audiences, by age and stuff, they may have a new show coming out, but it's not for everybody. And because of the volume that they're coming out with, it's kind of a trickle. So I feel like they're the 24/7 365 day a year production schedule is still kind of catching on some of the streamers, so they're definitely not seasonal, so they're not like TV. And I think it's just the way it's going to be eventually, that we're just going to have to see this constant churn of content, or people won't stay on. They'll subscribe, just like HBO. People would subscribe for Game of Thrones for 2 or 3 months and then cancel, and then they wait a year or two until the next season came out. You can't run a business on that.
But
right?
wait a minute though, isn't Disney kind of doing their releases like a TV broadcast release where it's like every week is a new episode?
They
Or was that
are.
just for Mandalorian?
No, no, they are for most of their shows. They're doing weekly releases.
Yeah, because, like, one thing I think with the it's funny actually, I was just watching, a comedy spoof on how Netflix never says no to to anything, but I think part of that is because Netflix's model is the binge watching model. You know, they put everything
Hmm.
out, "Here's our all 6 episodes, here's all 10 episodes," in one sitting, whereas Disney keeps you coming back, or even like HBO because they do it weekly like the old TV model.
Right. Netflix has a mass production model. It's like we're gonna make a whole series and we're gonna make a whole bunch of them. So they got the stack of series and then they can schedule to release them whenever they want. And then when they dump them, they know they're gonna get people watching 8, 10, 12 episodes, binge
Mhm.
watching it. And then the on the other side of that is the seasonal kind of one at a time thing to kind of string you along. So those are two different models, for streaming. But yeah, Disney definitely has like right now the What If series is out. The Marvel series is doing episodes weekly. The new Doogie Howser, I can't pronounce the Hawaiian name.
Oh, did that already come out?
It's yeah, the second episode dropped this
Oh,
week
wow, okay.
as of taping. And it's cute. It's a cute show. It's typical kind of Disney broadcast family network TV kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are all kind of weekly shows, so you have to kind of check back in. It's still though in the streaming world, like if you sign up for a streaming service, you instantly have access to all the episodes of shows that have done their run. So it's not, it's only the new shows where you have to wait week by week by week. You still have that back catalog you can always access. Unlike old style TV where you had to wait for the reruns to come around to catch the episodes you missed. Remember that?
Yeah,
Like if you missed
yeah.
an episode, it's like, oh, I could. What am I going to do now? I missed one episode, so you can either skip that episode and watch the next one, and hope you didn't miss too much, or you have to wait until the whole season runs and then pick it up. Okay, oh, the reruns are happening in the summer, and you can pick up where you missed your episodes. That's a whole thing that I think has gone away too. Do you remember that?
Do you remember okay, it kind of reminds me of have you ever seen the movie You've Got Mail?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Okay, so do you remember oh, I can't remember his name, but, Meg Ryan's spoiler alert, the guy who becomes her ex-boyfriend, uh, Greg Kinnear, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's on the talk show, I forget the lady that who's the character's name, but they're talking about the VCR. Do you remember this scene?
No, I got it so long ago.
Oh, okay. So he's talking they kind of veer off, they're supposed to be talking about politics or whatever, and then he talks about the VCR, and he says the line is something along the lines of, "The VCR is there so you can tape what you miss when you're out and about, but the whole point of missing TV is that you're out and about." It's something like that. Watch the scene, he says it more eloquently, but it's basically like, "Why did we invent this thing? Because the whole point is that you're missing TV." You know? But then
Right.
you have this thing so you don't miss TV, and that's what it reminded me of when you were talking about the streamers, because it's true, and I don't know about you, there's so much content that honestly, if I miss it, I kinda don't care, like, when we were at home, we started watching Gilmore Girls. I never watched Gilmore Girls in its first run, and we started watching, like, season 1, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great," but I'm like, I never watched it in the first run, I don't really need to watch it again in
Yeah.
rerun because I missed it the first time, I don't care.
Right. The psychology of it is very different. A lot of streaming shows are serialized. It's not typical, like sitcoms on broadcast, which are, you can watch any episode in any order, and it usually doesn't matter. I think most streaming shows are serialized, so you kind of have to watch them in order, season by
Mhm.
season, to keep up with the story and how it's going. That's not true on everything, but I feel like a lot of it is. So I forgot where I was going with
I was
that.
gonna say, now that would be I don't know if anyone's ever done a psychological survey on the thought of, is it good to have that much content? Like, do people actually watch it all, or do they care, or are they just like, "Whatever?" Because even if you have that much content, then the advertising comes in. No one's gonna watch, Joe Schmo's show if they don't know about it, even if it is on Netflix, you know what
Hmm.
I mean? Be
Right.
but if you put a lot of money behind, like, "Oh, the latest season of The Crown," then people are like, "Oh, yeah, I gotta watch that because 'cause I've heard so much about it." So, again,
Hmm.
you kinda go back into classic broadcast
Mhm.
tactics and stuff. I don't know.
I feel like there's a lack of, uh, kind of, I don't wanna say impetus, or a lack of, urgency in watching streaming shows on streaming platforms. Because like I watched, I think the first season of Lucifer, which is now I think going on season 5 or 6,
Mhm.
and I liked it, but I didn't like love it. And I know it's there, so if I ever want to go back and watch it, I can. But I don't feel like, when you're doing episode by episode, week by week, it's kind of like, event TV where you have to tune in, or like in this case with streamers, it's like I'm checking to see, like, what day does the new episode of What If come out on for Marvel on Disney Plus. So it's kind of like, there's that anticipation, like I can't wait to see the next episode.
Mhm.
Whereas when you have, like, oh, there's 40 episodes, I haven't watched it, it's kind of like, oh, it's almost like a chore, like, am I gonna
Yeah.
really get into this and keep it going?
Yeah. That's how I am about book series. Although you also have to wonder, is it a generational thing? Because 'Cause we're of that generation where we remember TV coming out once a week, and you had to know when it was coming, so you didn't miss it. But people
Hmm.
who grew up with streaming are probably just, like, used to that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched a broadcast show in ages. I got rid of Hulu a few months back, which was pretty much where I watched most of the broadcast shows, from most of the networks were on Hulu. So, now that I don't know, I guess the fall season started at some point. I have no idea what's on or what's coming, so, and I don't care because I've got so much other stuff to watch already.
I don't even know how to watch a broadcast show
Yeah.
anymore. Like, I don't even know how would I find it on the smart TV.
Just kind of bring this back to, the industry is, writers, part of the Writers Guild, question, issues with the industry recently was, how do you staff writers on shows that don't have a set schedule? Because they
Mhm.
overlap, they run at different periods, they have different lengths. So I think it's getting even messier in that respect. So how do you pay a writer, and how do you staff a writer for a show that runs, 12 episodes this year, but not again for another 3 years? And how do you staff them when you have to have them write the episodes now, and then there's another show starting in, a month, and they can't start on that show, but they're going to be, the overlapping of seasons and writers rooms.
Mhm.
So I feel like things are probably a little chaotic. Maybe the people on the inside know better. We should probably get a manager or something on who knows more about what writers are going through on the industry side, like that. Be a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if
Yeah.
a lot of it too is just wait until the pandemic sort of I mean, I don't think it'll ever really go away, but just kind of dies down and is more manageable day to day, because
Mhm.
I think that affects a lot of it too.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. One of the things I did this summer was audition for a game show.
Oh, yeah! How did that go? Have you heard back yet?
Not yet. They're supposed to be filming in September and October, and I have not heard back. I don't want to talk about what show it's for,
Oh,
but
no, of course.
yeah, it was exciting. It was fun. I had a Zoom like test where I was on with a producer, and we went back and forth in like the questions and things to see if I could play the game, sort of. And then they had a live boot camp, socially distanced, masked, and you had to be vaccinated and do like a health check before you went, to the studio,
Mhm.
the offices of the studio where they did this boot camp. And they had probably about 25 potential contestants there, and they literally showed us how to play the game. They told us, "Don't do this. These are the mistakes you're going to make," because they want you to win. Technically, they think the show is more exciting if people actually win.
Yeah.
And it was really helpful. It was really good. So if I do get on the show, I think I'll do well. But I'm waiting to hear, and hopefully soon, that I'll be on that show.
And who knows, like I said, with COVID, maybe things got pushed back or
That's possible. That's very possible.
yeah.
They have not sent any news to that effect. They did a season last year that was all virtual, where it was all done through, Zoom like kind of, setup, where all the contestants and the guest stars were in virtual locations.
Okay.
But this is supposed to be a live in person taping, with or without an audience. I don't know yet. But that's interesting.
Speaking of Zoom, this has nothing to do with industry. Maybe it does actually. I think it's hilarious. Like, remember in the beginning of the pandemic, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, we'll never see humans again. And everyone kept their cameras on. Now, when I go on any Zoom meeting, Like, everyone keeps their cameras off. I think it's funny.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of science that came out about that where being in a regular meeting versus being in a Zoom meeting was were psychologically very different. When you're in a Zoom
Mhm.
meeting, you're very conscious, especially if you keep your own video up. I usually turn off the watch self video if I'm going to leave my camera on because I don't want to see what I'm doing. And it's eye contact is incredibly hard to keep. But when you're in a room with other people, you know, you can look at your notepad, you can scribble, and people, you know, you're listening, and you know, you can look up and down. But when you're on a Zoom meal, people really expect you to like, kind of look at the camera the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be very stressful.
Oh, yeah. And even for someone like me who is usually in front of a camera, I find it stressful.
Well, I find it funny because I have a very big screen because I have an iMac, a big 27-inch iMac,
Oh,
and
that's
if I have
right.
like you know a bunch of people up in the little boxes, and I'm looking at the person talking, I'm not looking at the camera. So if the
Mhm.
person's looking at me, looking at them, it looks like I'm not looking at them because I'm looking to the side because the screen's so big. So it's I feel like it's very awkward. Like,
I think everybody does that though, because 'cause I'll usually look at the speaker and not the camera as well, but the speaker's
uh
never, like, in the middle, they're off to the side somewhere.
right.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you want to look at yourself to see what you look like and you look at yourself, then you're not looking at the camera. So you look funny. It's kind of comical really. It's almost like the whole trying to catch the refrigerator light on, you know, when you're closing the door. So you
Mhm.
like look at yourself, look at the camera, look at yourself, look at the camera, and it's kind of goofy.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't like cameras. I don't like being on camera actually, which is ironic.
I feel like after the pandemic settles, everyone's gonna hate being on camera no matter what they do.
Yeah. Speaking of being on camera or slash not on camera, other thing I did this summer is I started streaming recently
Oh,
about a month ago.
yeah.
Yeah, I started streaming on Twitch. I got big into gaming during the pandemic because I had time, and I'm always looking for a reason to avoid doing work or writing. So I got into streaming. I but I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't want to. I feel like again self conscious about that. So I had a little avatar, an artist do an avatar of my for me. It's a bear. So I stream as a laughing, angry, screaming bear.
It's a cool animation.
You've
You
seen
know,
it,
and as
yeah.
somebody who watches a lot of streamers, I like it when I mean, I get it if you don't wanna go on camera or if you don't have the setup to go on camera, but I do like it when I can see the streamer's face. Or, like,
Sure,
in your case,
yeah.
you have at least something interactive. I
Right,
like
they call
that.
them the faceless streamers are the ones who just have nothing, and that's just like watching, you know, video game play, and you hear the person talking, but it's a little disconnected. So I felt like doing the avatar, you know, the animated avatar, was kind of a
Yeah.
step in the right direction. And I would go eventually go to, you know, there's like this is like a 2D tuber, there's a 3D tuber where you have like the 3D character and you have motion tracking and everything, and they get really elaborate, and those are pretty impressive. But
Mhm.
they're more expensive, and I don't have the setup for doing that at the moment, or at least I don't. I guess I could do it, but
So are you, like, running like, are you for lack of a better are you, like, pressing buttons to make the animation go while you're streaming, or how does it
the
operate?
I yes and no. There's a couple different things. Since it's there's an app called Video Tube Mini. I can't know that's how you say it, but it lets you take static images and animate them, and have them react to things. So
Oh, okay.
it reacts to my microphone. So when I'm talking, character opens and closes its mouth, and then I have keyboards, hotkeys I've set up for different expressions. So happy, sad, angry, you know, surprised. So I had all those pieces, all the art done for the character with those different expressions. So I can animate them all and automate them all just with a keystroke.
Okay.
So like when I'm mad at the game, I can hit the angry bear, you know, rage bear button, and he goes all Rawr! And it's animated so that when I'm talking, like his arms go up and his mouth opens. So you have multiple animations. His eyes change. You have different states. So it's an interesting way to, I
Oh,
guess you could say, perform,
yeah.
and you know, and you can generate content because I kind of play this character of this bear. It's weird because I'm not used to doing, you know, the acting side of things. So I'm trying to be the bear, but then I'm not the bear. I'm having an identity crisis.
Be the bear, but
Be
not
the
be the
bear.
bear.
I'm the bear. Yes, it's very hard to play
It's
video
a
games
very
with
cool
pause.
Yeah, it's very cool to watch though. I like it.
Hmm.
So,
And yeah, it's been fun. I did it a lot because I got into the gaming world because of my game, the word Recursion game that I made, because
mhm.
I figured I should get into that universe and see how people react, and I actually can talk about my game to the people that are in my stream. I always mention it. Hey, yeah, I also made a game if you're interested. So it's kind of marketing.
Yeah. Oh, I guess speaking of marketing, I did an interview with a lovely podcast. I'm not sure I can say the name on here because technically there's a swear word in their name, so we'll put the link in the show notes. It's 2 book Bs, we'll say that. Um, just so I don't
Okay.
have to put a rating on this, but they were lovely, they were just absolutely wonderful people to chat with. I believe the interview's live. I learned a lot about book promo this summer, even though I didn't have a lot of time to do book promo, just it's so much longer than film promo,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The window that books come out in is different, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you're doing a series like you are, you're never stop promoting the series or the first book. Even though your second book's coming out, that's your chance to get people to read the first book if they haven't as well. So
Mhm.
I did a podcast. I did our friend Sam Gash's Ideal Remake. I did that, the one we did before. Um, I did again solo this time. We did The Abyss. We remade The Abyss,
Ooh,
James Cameron's
who'd you
sci-fi film.
cast?
Oh God, you can
Remember?
listen to the episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ideal Remake is the podcast. It's a fun. They talk about movies that have been, will be, or should be remade. So it's a fun podcast. We had a really good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So I
very
guess we
cool.
had busy summers.
We did. We did a lot. I'm surprised that the summer went this fast, to be
I think a lot
honest.
of people do. I think
Yeah.
time has taken on a different texture in this pandemic. At times, yeah, I just can't believe week by week goes by and we're in the fall. But now here we are in the fall and ready to talk more writing.
We'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.